Daystar's leadership finally facing its reckoning.
Okay, today we're digging into a story that's, well, it's really shaking the world of Christian media again. Right at the center, you've got this intense drama around the Daystar network. And there's this central mystery, an alleged new letter. This one's supposedly from Rebecca Lamb and her husband, J.W. Weiss.
Right.
It's a claim. And look, if it turns out to be verifiable, it could honestly change how we understand everything happening inside, one of the biggest Christian broadcasting empires out there.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really dive deep. We want to get into all the layers of claims and counterclaims, try to sort through the reports flying around.
Yeah, separate fact from rumor.
Exactly. See what's actually on the record versus what's still, well, unconfirmed.
And what's really crucial here, I think, is seeing how these newer claims slot into this ongoing story of scrutiny for Daystar. This isn't exactly new territory for them. The network, it was huge, right? Top of the Christian TV world. But it's actually been under a pretty intense microscope since Marcus Lamb passed away back in 2021.
Oh, wait, that was sudden.
Very. And almost immediately, questions started popping up about leadership, about finances, even about, fights within the family. So these latest allegations, if they're proven, they're not just some isolated thing. They'd be adding a really significant, maybe even more troubling chapter to what's already a pretty complicated story. But, okay, here's the crucial question, isn't it? As of today, there is no publicly verifiable copy of this letter. Zero.
Right. That's the catch.
It's a huge catch. The claims are everywhere, right? Videos, petitions, lots of talk online. But the actual text, an image of the letter, it hasn't surfaced.
Nothing concrete.
Nothing. So we have these persistent reports, yes, but without the document itself, we can't verify the contents. It's a really critical distinction we have to keep making. And just to make it even messier, there's even sort of counter chatter. There was an ex-post, apparently from Jonathan Lamb, claiming that Rachel Lamb, another sister, apparently told him there was no letter at all.
Oh, wow. So even more confusion.
Exactly.
But you really nailed the core issue just before. The whole idea of an insider account, especially from within the family, Joni Lamb's own son-in-law, J.W. Weiss, that completely changes the game. He's not some random outsider. His eyewitness testimony, if it exists and if it's verified, well, the reports say it goes directly against the official story Daystar and Joni Lamb have been telling.
It would completely undermine it.
Totally. And that makes the potential impact of this alleged letter absolutely massive. Not just for the family drama, but for the credibility of the entire institution. But then, the question lingers. If it's so important, why is it still missing? Why hasn't it surfaced, even for the police? Okay, let's pivot a bit now. Let's look at the official investigation, the wider fallout, and, well, these really uncomfortable shifts in loyalty that started showing up inside the Lamb family itself.
Right.
The Colleyville police investigation into Jonathan and Susie's allegations, it was put on hold initially. The main reason given was baby Lamb's emotional state, her fragility, finding it hard to talk about it all.
Which is understandable in these kinds of sensitive cases, unfortunately. Very common.
Very common, yeah. And this is so important for us to grasp the detective who was leading the case. He was crystal clear. He stated, quote, "This does not exonerate Pete or clear him of any charges."
Okay, that's unambiguous.
Completely unambiguous. It's a critical distinction. And now we know the case was actually reopened in 2025. That's a vital piece of information that really highlights that these very serious allegations are still very much active.
And what really jumps out here is the massive difference between what law enforcement was saying, precise legal language, and the story Daystar put out.
Yeah. What did Daystar say?
Well, despite the detective saying very clearly Pete was not cleared, Daystar Network put out this public statement framing the temporary hold on the case as a victory, a vindication even, for both the network and for Pete.
Wow. So spinning it completely differently.
Absolutely. This message going out to their loyal audience, it really seemed to imply Pete was innocent, that the investigation was over definitively, which, as we now know, wasn't true at all. It was a, let's say, strategic reframing, designed to reassure viewers and keep that institutional trust intact.
And the shockwaves from this scandal, they went way beyond just the police report, didn't they? We saw some major fallout for Daystar itself.
Oh, definitely.
Big names, ministries that are often, the financial backbone of these networks, they reacted pretty fast. Joyce Meyer, for example. She's a huge name in Christian broadcasting.
Household name.
Right. She made what must have been a tough call to pause her program on Daystar. What does that actually signify when someone like Joyce Myers steps back like that? It's more than just a schedule change, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely not just a schedule change. That sends a massive signal to the entire Christian media world and maybe more importantly to donors.
The money aspect.
Yes. When a ministry as big as Joyce Myers pauses programming, it directly hits donor confidence. It signals worries about the network's reputation, and it often makes other ministries think twice about their own involvement.
A domino effect.
It can be, yeah. Ripple effect. It basically underlines that these allegations are being taken seriously by very influential peers, and that can have huge financial and reputational costs for Daystar.
That makes sense. A crucial point. And maybe even more revealing. This whole situation seemed to expose some really deeply uncomfortable shifts in loyalty right inside the Lamb family. Initially, the reports say Rebecca and JW, they appeared deeply shaken by what they'd supposedly witnessed regarding Pete's behavior.
Right, that was the early word.
Yeah. Allegedly, they even told Jonathan and Susie they'd fully support them if Pete ever faced charges or went to court. Their reaction back then seemed like real concern.
Okay.
But then as time went on, something seems to have changed pretty drastically, that strong stance.
Yeah.
It reportedly just faded. They allegedly got much quieter about it all. And here's the kicker. JW, along with his lawyer, refused to give a copy of that alleged letter to the Colleyville police when the police asked for it.
And the wider implications of that refusal, I mean, you could argue it significantly impacted the investigation, couldn't you?
How so?
Well, think about it. Without that letter as potential official proof, as a first-hand account from an insider, it makes it much harder for law enforcement to build a case or corroborate Jonathan and Susie's account.
Right. It leaves a gap.
A big gap. And that, in turn, could inadvertently lend more weight to Daystar's public narrative that, oh, it's only Jonathan and Susie raising concerns, there's no other evidence. It creates this profound void where potentially crucial evidence might have been.
So, okay, let's zoom out a bit. When we look beyond just this alleged letter, what does it all really point to? Joni Lamb, she publicly claimed this united front in the family about the allegation.
That was the party line?
Yeah. But when you dig into the sources, it's pretty clear the claim doesn't really stand up, does it? In reality, you had at least 2 Lamb children and their spouses, Jonathan and Susie, and Rebecca and JW, who actually expressed serious worries about Pete's behavior.
Which completely contradicts the idea that the concerns were isolated.
Exactly. So the family, at least internally, seems to have been anything but united on this.
And this brings up a really important question, I think, about how institutions, especially ones that are so deeply tied to a family, how they manage their stories when there's disagreement from within.
Right.
Look at Jonathan Lamb's experience. It's pretty telling. He gets demoted. He's pressured to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement.
Which would silence him.
Completely silence him. A legally binding document stopping him from ever talking about the allegations or anything else about why he was fired. This isn't just about losing your job. It's almost like trying to erase someone's voice, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Daystar's public reasons for firing him were things like performance problems, disobeying orders, standard stuff. But those directly involved, they seemed to know the real reason. Jonathan refused to shut up. He wouldn't keep quiet about what he thought was abuse.
So the firing wasn't about performance, it was about narrative control.
In that context, it certainly looks like it, removing a dissenting voice from the inside.
That's a really powerful point about the cost of refusing to be silenced. And this brings us right back to Rebecca and JW. Their alleged change of heart, their refusal to help the police. Why the silence? What could be behind that?
It's hard to say for sure, obviously.
Could it be intense family pressure? Fear of public backlash? Maybe trying to protect the ministry's image, its finances? The sources definitely suggest it's hard to ignore the possibility of some major influence happening behind closed doors.
Especially given the timing, how their loyalties seem to shift. I mean, what kind of immense pressure must they have felt?
Well, what this specific case shows, maybe more than others, is that deep moral calculation that happens when the family is the institution. It's not just like corporate strategy.
Yeah.
It's about the unique pressure of blood ties clashing right up against moral duty. And silence, like we potentially see with Rebecca and JW, it becomes this really powerful act, almost an inherited act of protecting the institution. And it carries a different kind of personal weight than in a regular company. So we've walked through this really complex territory, haven't we? claims, the official statements, and all those quiet spaces in between. On one hand, you have these incredibly powerful allegations, supposedly in that Rebecca and JW letter insider accounts of deeply disturbing behavior. And on the other hand, you have the stark fact that we still don't have a publicly verified copy of that letter. It's elusive. And that creates this real tension between what's being claimed and what we can actually definitively prove.
Yeah, and this whole deep dive, whether that letter ever surfaces or not, it really throws into sharp relief these profound human dynamics, these institutional dynamics that come into play when trust gets broken, especially in a family-run organization like Daystar.
Right.
It forces us, I think, to really think about the burden of proof, about the immense pressure there can be to just conform, to toe the line, and what accountability truly means inside organizations that, preach morality as their core mission.
Yeah.
And it also makes you ask, at what point does that desire to protect the institution, its image, its money, its legacy, when does that overshadow the need to find the truth and pursue justice? Especially when the allegations are coming from inside the very family that built it all.
And that leaves us, and you listening, with a really powerful question, doesn't it? In these situations where the influence is just so immense, where the lines between family and the institution are so incredibly blurred, what is it that truly pushes people to speak out? And what makes others choose silence, even when they've apparently witnessed behavior that is deeply, deeply concerning?
Yeah.
The question that definitely goes far beyond just this one case. It kind of invites all of us to reflect on our own expectations. What do we expect in terms of transparency, of integrity, from the institutions we choose to put our trust in?